So I went to the hotel, and it was like a scene out of The Godfather, Mo. There was a long table where all the coaches were sitting side by side and administrators. And then there was a single chair in this massive hall for me to sit in. Okay. So I go and I sit in the chair, and Coach Queiroz says, "It's been brought to my attention that you want to work with our top goalkeepers here on the senior national team. Is that true?" And I said calmly, "Yes," but my body was doing somersaults inside. So he whispered to his left, and they went all the way down the line. Then he whispered to his right. They went all the way down the line. And he says, "Okay, tomorrow morning, be here at 9:30. Training was scheduled at 10, but he never observed. He knew me as a person. He had an idea about my level of professionalism, but in actuality, he never seen me train. So I was there at 9:30, and in the locker room, Victor Villa was one of our goalkeepers, who at the time was #1 in Europe and in a top 10 in the world. He goes, "Look at this guy. He dresses better than we do." And I said, "Victor," and Silvino at the time, who was the assistant for many years to Jose Mourinho as their goalkeeper coach, or his goalkeeper coach. I said, "I'm not going to ask anything of you that I'm not prepared to do." Now, the night before, you can imagine, my whole life, I'm preparing for this one opportunity. At that level, Mo, you get one chance. That's it.
Exactly.
And I'm walking back and forth all alone. I'm on my knees. I'm praying to everybody and everything to give me the power and strength to deliver. So once the training session started, I was an innovator at that time, and I think I've always have been. But back in those days, nobody was using tennis balls and reaction machines and weighted balls and resistant courts like it's so commonly used today. And I brought all those toys to training. And the training session started at 10 o'clock. The field players started coming out to the pitch, and the star of that team was Paulo Futre.
Mhm.
And he was a captain, Mo. And he came, and the assistant coach is telling the team to go down to the other half. But Paul Fruit sat the whole team down in the corner of the field on the half that I was training, encouraging me. Spectacular, Gaspar. It was amazing. He was blessing me. He was confirming me. My dad, who for 25 years had a radio program here in the States, in Connecticut, Auto the Soldado, had a press pass. So he was behind the goal with all these journalists ready to crucify me. At the end of the session, they all ran to Victor B, and they said, "What do you think of Dan Gaspar?" And he said, "Look, he has the ability, the qualifications, and the standards to train any goalkeeper anywhere on the planet." So because he embraced me and welcomed me, the journalists couldn't attack me, and they backed off. So that's how my experience launched me into the international arena.
And then from there, from the national team, is that where you moved on to with the clubs?
Yes, correct. After the World Cup qualification process, which we didn't qualify in '94, we lost to Italy. Roberto Baggio scored a goal in the 70th minute in San Siro. Coach Queiroz decided to go to Sporting,
Ah,
and he invited me to join him there. So that was my first professional team, and we won the Portuguese Cup that season. And then from there, we actually came to the MLS in 1998, which was the first inaugural season, to the Metro Stars, who are now referred to as the Red Bulls.
exactly.
And then from the Red Bulls, we ended up going to a tremendous experience, one of the best professional experiences I've had. We went to Nagoya Grampus 8 in Japan. And then it just continued on from there. Then from Japan, we went to South Africa national team. Then we went to Porto, and it just goes on and on and on.
You experienced lots of success at Porto. As we see in the picture, you guys won an international competition. I think that was the year after Jose Mourinho had finished at Porto.
That's correct. I mean, we were very fortunate that Mourinho had qualified for the Champions League. And because of Porto's qualification under his leadership, the following year, we automatically qualified for the final, the Intercontinental Cup final. But that was a great experience for me. It was a tremendous environment. We had an outstanding team. The majority of it was the hardcore of the Champions League that they had won the year before, although many of the players also moved on after having such success. So that was one of the highlights of my career. The head coach at the time was Victor Fernandez from Spain. I was able to be the goalkeeper coach at Porto because of Victor Bahia. I was working on the national team, and there was an opening, and Victor Bahia introduced my name to Pinto da Costa, who was a president and continues to be an icon at Porto, and Victor was able to convince him. From Porto, prior to Porto, I came from Benfica. Okay, so Benfica was a great opportunity. I mean, the Benfica nation is huge. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world. Under the leadership of Antonio Camacho, we also won the Portuguese Cup, and the goalkeeper at that time was José Moreira, and he was also the captain of the Portuguese Olympic team. Quite an interesting story there, if you don't mind me sharing. One of the coaching challenges that I had. Moreira was 23 at the time, same age as Casillas in Real Madrid. They were two young goalkeepers at huge clubs. And on a regular basis, in fact, on a daily basis, Camacho would come to the press saying that we don't have a goalkeeper at the level and the standards of this club. You can imagine being Moreira, captain of the Olympic team, and not getting the confidence of the head coach. There's a lot of drama in that. So I sat him down. We had a very intimate meeting, and it was all about us. It was about me and him and my responsibility to prepare him to be the best that he can be in order to compete and to gain the confidence of the coaching staff and the players. And I started thinking, what imagery could I use with him to allow him to grow and develop, especially in his decision-making? So I thought the best way to do that is to call him the Gladiator. That was his nickname. Nobody knew it on the team except him and I. How does a gladiator prepare for battle? How does he dress for battle? When he makes that decision, it's a fatal decision. Either he lives or he dies. It's the same things were coming for crosses. He was exceptional on reflexes, spectacular in diving, good catcher of the ball, in between the sticks, phenomenal. But outside of the goal wasn't his strength. And that's true with many, many goalkeepers. Moreira, if a gladiator came for a cross, how would he respond? How would he make that decision? And when he made that decision, there was no hesitation. One day we're on a double-decker bus. We're on our way to a trip to play a derby, in fact, against Sporting. He called me upstairs, and I went upstairs. He goes, look in my bag. And he had in his bag the Gladiator movie. So I knew I had him. And I had him because it was a right moment in his career for someone to influence him mentally. If I had done that perhaps with an older goalkeeper, they might not have bought in to that, but he bought into that. And then we went on to the UEFA Cup. We played the Norwegian team, and he was spectacular. The field players carried him on their shoulders off the field. And from that point on, Antonio Camacho, Pepe, who was the assistant coach, never again publicly came out and said that we're looking for a goalkeeper, because Moreira gained their confidence.
Very cool. In 2010, eventually, you and Coach Queiroz, I think, reunited to take on the next project for the Portuguese national team.
That's correct.
Tell me a little bit about what makes Coach Carlos a special coach, because everybody knows that he had an experience at Manchester United for a very long time working with Sir Alex Ferguson, and from there he had a chance to be one of the biggest clubs in the history of football at Real Madrid. I mean, not a lot of people get a chance to sit on that bench, especially with all the talent they had that year. So all these years that you worked with Coach Carlos Queiroz, what makes him a special coach?
He certainly is special, and he's certainly unique. Back in 94, U.S. Soccer hired Carlos Queiroz and myself as technical consultants to travel the United States of America and to really do a deep analysis and to go on a fact-finding mission on what was currently being done and what needed to change in order to develop elite players. And I remember we lived in Tampa at the time, and I remember one night, it started around midnight, and Carlos Queiroz paced back and forth while I was sitting on a couch until 3 o'clock in the morning. sharing with me what it means to be in the winning business. Here in the States, and probably true in Canada, we're champions in the business of soccer. You know, unfortunately, you don't get recognized, or you don't lift a trophy for the business of soccer. You lift a trophy for when you compete in the winning business. And he was trying to explain to me, because I was a product of that business of soccer, and what it took in order to compete at the highest levels. And it changed my life, that intimate discussion that I could sense his passion, his seriousness, and what it meant to have discipline, to be committed, to sacrifice in order to achieve your dreams. And it had to be the number one priority above everything else. He was very clear in his plans. They were crystal clear. He believed in vertical integration, which meant no matter what it is, it was all very crucially important. You know, again, I was casual, you know, because of the environment that I was brought in, but he, everything was important to Coach Queiroz on and off the field. Attention to detail was spectacular. And that's what I learned from him. And I think that's what makes him so special, is that how committed he is to the art of coaching, how much he loves the game, how he's able to get the best out of those he's surrounded by. His leadership qualities are spectacular. So I've been very fortunate, very blessed to be surrounded by him and others who shared their wisdom and experiences with me, who allowed me to learn and grow, who gave me opportunities, who had confidence in me, who trusted in me. And you know, now in my lifetime, in the career, in the chapter that I'm in, Mo, my tribute to them is to try to share those experiences and life lessons that I learned from them with others.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you say that, because Sir Alex Ferguson said something very similar, that it was the attention to detail with Coach Queiroz that really set them apart, and his commitment to developing great sessions and everything on and off the field being just perfect. So it's interesting that you kind of mentioned the same things that Sir Alex Ferguson mentioned about Coach Queiroz.
Absolutely. Anybody who's worked with him, it's not easy. It's not easy to work and support Coach Carlos Queiroz and his philosophy. You have to be on 24/7. Now, so is he.
Absolutely.
He's the first one at the stadium. He's the last one leaving the training session. You know, you could get a call from him at 1, 2, or 3 in the morning. You better answer that phone. You know, there's no excuses as far as he's concerned. And he's always striving, despite the success, he always believes we can do it better. So he challenges every expert in his staff to improve, to get better, to challenge themselves.
Fantastic. And before we move on to the next experience in Iran, which tons of people have been asking about, I'm going to maybe touch on your experience working with some of the top players in Portugal, such as Cristiano, who you had the pleasure of working with for many years. And, you know, Coach Sam, who's also a co-founder of HPFC. I would say Ronaldo was his idol growing up. He emulated him, and he asked me to ask you tons of questions about Cristiano, but I'm going to just simply ask the following. What makes Cristiano one of the great players in history? Aside from obviously his talent, his technique, what is it? What are the other aspects of Cristiano's character, or on the field or off the field, that make him unique?
His work ethic, the goals and targets that he sets for himself, and he doesn't deviate from it. I was in a steam room one time with Eusebio and Cristiano Ronaldo, myself. This was in South Africa during the World Cup. Here I am, this American. And, you know, Eusebio excused himself and left. And I said to myself, geez, you know, this is one-on-one. Let me ask him a question. And I asked him, Ronaldo, what motivates you? And he says, winning. And at that time, it was the transfer that was made from Man U to Real Madrid, which was the biggest transfer fee recorded till that date. I said, but you've won everything. He paused and he says, I want to be the best. I want to be the best of all times. I want to be the best in history. Many athletes and coaches want to be the best, but how many say they want to be the best of all times? So that's what motivates CR7. That's what motivates Cristiano Ronaldo. every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month of the year. In South Africa, we were remote from Johannesburg. We were in a safari type of compound. Coach Queiroz gave the day off to all the players and staff. I take that back, to all the players. The staff had to remain, continue to work. And all the players left. And I'm walking around the compound and I poke my head in to the gymnasium. And who's there? Cristiano Ronaldo, working alone. During training, he's the first one to arrive at the pitch. He's the last one to leave, even though it aggravated so many. Now, as a goalkeeper coach, I was able to form a good relationship with him because he needed goalkeepers in order to practice his free kicks, his penalty kicks, and etc. And after every session, he would perform exactly his routines, his ritual routines on taking his free kicks. Even though training was over and the bus was full of all the balance of the Portuguese superstars, but now who's going to come off the bus and say, come on, Ronaldo, we got to go? Nobody, because that one free kick could change our lives.
Exactly.
The other thing that I learned from him is that he loves to win, but he hates to lose. And there's a difference. He loves to win, like many of us, but he hates to lose in everything. Guess who the best ping pong player is on the Portuguese national team? You know, it's always between him and Nani. They would always battle it out, you know, or pool or cards, whatever. He wins in everything that he does because he sets those standards, you know, personally. He self-imposes those. So that's a snapshot of what makes him so special, is that he works at it every day.
Absolutely. I should say here that Coach is currently working on autobiography about his life and his career. And what we're talking about is just the tip of the iceberg, as they say. Is a much more complex and elaborate life story behind all of this. So, you know, you're going to be able to hear a lot more about these stories once Coach is finished writing the book. But these are just a little bit of tidbits for you guys to appreciate. Coach, I want to move on to your experience in Iran, and what a country of contradictions, and what a misunderstood environment. I mean, not a lot of people would take the risk of taking the national team of Iran. A lot of people haven't. And I just wanted you to maybe first tell us about your experience with the country. What did you feel when you got there? What was the culture like? And, you know, how was it that you ended up in Iran with Coach Queiroz?
First of all, I'm grateful to Coach Queiroz and believing and trusting my abilities to invite me on this spectacular journey. Now, you can imagine, Mo, you know, going to my family, experts